going.
And we're live, episode number 7, everyone. Welcome back. Salute to everyone who's listening and subscribing to our content. Make sure you share this to your local, is it local? Local social media. I don't know if that makes sense, but just share this to your social media.
Yes.
Uh, by the way, we've got an electrifying start today. Em's gone through a crazy experience. We're laughing right now, but we weren't laughing maybe 20
I
minutes
was
ago.
crying. I was
Yeah,
crying.
do you want to share like this experience? Because actually, to be fair, there could be someone who's listening to this who's gone through a very similar experience right now, which maybe like, hold on, I've gone through exactly the same thing. So you may get like a ton of messages after this. So yeah, feel free to share your story right now.
Cool. Well, I just got a phone call quite randomly, and there was a guy from, he said he was from the National Insurance Security Company, and basically I've been on the phone with them for like an hour, and they have been trying for me to move my money into a federation account or federal account. And yeah, it was pretty scary because they were threatening me with law cases and warranty for my arrest for money laundering and drug trafficking.
Oh,
And I have been in shock for
Evan
like
Escobar over here.
I've been in shock for yeah, for about 90 minutes now, and I came on chatting with these boys and I cried. So it's been yeah, I was one step away from probably making a really big mistake, and yeah, it was pretty scary if I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard like really, especially over the last probably I think 6 months in 2020, there's been loads of these phone calls. Even I've had them myself about like HMRC. I've had like emails, to be honest. I've not had a phone call. It's mainly been emails, but for a lot of people, if you click on the emails, it'll always be like some weird number next to it, so it's a scam. So firstly, never open up a link. I'm here talking like I'm like the fraud king or the police right now, but basically, never open up a link. Any phone calls, I rarely pick them up unless I know something. Like if I know someone, if I've got their number saved, then I know they're going to be ringing me, or if I know someone else is going to be calling me, etc. Even if I pick it up and I'm like, I normally just do like a weird accent, and I'm like, yeah, he's not here, whatever, and then they never ring again. So that's always been like my kind of go-to. But at the same time, like it is scary because I know people have gone through this, and I know I'm like, you literally, if this was another day, I don't know where you could be with your headspace and be like, okay, you know what, you might be like, F it, I'm just gonna go and give the whatever it is over here, and that is quite scary.
Yeah, I mean, initially it took them a long time before even wanting me to move my money. They were literally going through like their officer ID number, the warrant number, the case number, and then like the alternate dispute number. Like it's been very thorough, and they've been talking about, you know, me having 25 credit cards and cars that are in my names and houses that are in my names. And I mean, I wish I had houses in my name, but I barely pay rent, and share it with two other people. So it was definitely, it. And I talked to two people actually, two people, and in the end, I just, I wasn't very comfortable just moving money based on a phone call. So yeah, but in the beginning, it was very scary. Yeah.
Yeah, the lesson learned for everyone as well. Like, just if you do get this type of phone calls, just expect it. Number one, because it is like lockdown and there's more kind of whatever's going on in that situation. And number two, just probably report it to someone. I don't know. There's always loads of these numbers out there, but websites and so on. But yeah, it is. As soon as we saw your face, we're like, whoa, what's going on? We both kind of just stopped and we're like, what?
Yeah, my my two boys.
Yeah. They did you proper dirty. They're proper professional as well. Give you case numbers. You're not going to check those up, are you? And then two people, yeah, well, it's more credible if it's two people. And then, yeah, sucker.
Yeah. Then
What are we talking about today, Kunal?
angrier and angrier because I was like not doing what I wanted, and then like, all right, we're just gonna go ahead with the arrest warrant. And I'm like, uh,
That sounds scarier than it is, isn't it? It's like, holy
yeah.
crap, you can get
I'm
arrested.
too pretty for jail.
I'm like, it's almost Christmas. Don't I don't know how long this is gonna take.
Christmas in
I
jail.
mean, it would give me a good like bad girl stamp if I were actually go to prison, you know.
Yeah, great story. You know, when you're back on Instagram, be like, I'm back.
Yeah.
This happened. Buying. But this week, obviously, we've celebrated a couple of like when obviously the culture last week, and then we obviously had Diwali the week prior. This week is another celebration. We're back to the gym for everyone from next week. Not quite this week. Middle of next week, everyone's back into the gym. So I thought we can kickstart our podcast today with obviously quick tips, quick fire tips. Not even quick fire, but like let's dive deep into it. Like, what would, with all your clients as well getting back in the gym, what's your advice been like? Let's obviously start with Emily, and then we'll go to like Nate, and then finish off with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first week you get back, don't be too excited and like try and go for exactly what you did before you went off the gym or went into lockdown, because A, it's not really necessary, and B, you potentially would just hurt yourself, and then you would have excessive amounts of DOMS, which, you know, if you want to go back to the gym every day next week, maybe you want to be a bit more, yeah, reserved, maybe still working hard, but maybe not go to failure, not doing like drop sets and muscle rounds and rest poses that can wait for like a week or two.
Yeah, and I would definitely just go alongside that and just say, just get back into your routine. Whatever you were doing before and it was working, then absolutely go back into it. You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Just because you've not been there for a while doesn't mean that it's not going to work. For those people that were unsure whether their program, their routine was working, it's probably a really good opportunity to try something new if you don't think it has worked. And you can, you know, change the days that you train. You can change your training split, or you can just change the way that you come to the gym, whether it be your setup, your nutrition, your sleeping arrangements, all that type of stuff. That'll all make a massive difference into training. Alongside that, review where you are. You know, you're not going to be able to compare your numbers from where you are now to where you were before, or you're not even going to compare your numbers from your home workouts to where they are now too. So I think there's going to be it's like a fresh start, a new clean page written, and just a good opportunity for you to maybe try something new, not from a training perspective, but from a what you were struggling with before.
Yeah, on that note, I'll probably say something like reset your execution once again. So, you know, I think even like for me, for example, like I'm you know, everyone's chasing kind of load. And I think sometimes we forget things like tempo and just general basics. And I think we've had that during lockdown and home training. I think use that and take it away even to the gym. So like, don't forget that as soon as, you know, you start seeing a dumbbell and you start seeing, you know, just weights everywhere, you're thinking, you know what, I'll forget that tempo that I used at home. And I think another tip I'd probably say is obviously, you know, train hard, but obviously be sensible as well with this approach. I think for most people, it would take at least 3 to 4 weeks, potentially longer for some, to get back into their baseline volume or what they were doing previously. I know for me last time, I think it took me at least 5 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks to get all my numbers back in play. You know, obviously we had previously like it would be a bit longer than that, you know, closer towards like the 12-week marker. But I think with this one, it was just, you know, literally a month lockdown. So I don't think we're going to miss out on too much, in my opinion. I think you'll hear, you know, loads of posts, or you'll see loads of posts next week back to PRs or very, very quickly. And I think for most people, they're actually giving their joints a rest, which is actually a good thing. And yeah, that's probably my piece of advice as well.
100%. I'm definitely in that camp too. Like, I think I try to keep the intensity up from training in the gym back at home again, because obviously we did the first lockdown pretty effectively. My strength really was like stand out from there, and I didn't even take a week to be back up in PBs. Like I was already like just going in there straight away, smashing it up. But like last week and just as coming into this week, I've been like, I need a week off, you know, and I need to reset, because you know, I'm not even going to the gym feeling like I'm going to home workouts my mate's garage or back garden and thinking I do not want to be here. I joked every day for like the last 14 days. I've gone to his at 6 a.m. in the morning, been like, should we just have a cup of tea this morning? Just
a biscuit, yeah.
Yeah, just be like, get the rich teas out. We'll watch a bit of Sky Sports at 6 a.m. and we'll just say that we worked out and we'll have a cup of tea. And that's when you know that you're like, I just need some time off, especially before we're going to go back into the gym. You want to be a bit sprightly. So if you are in that camp where you have trained throughout the whole period, and you've probably been more consistent than ever because you're less social events, less things to go and make you fall off track. So if you've been consistent with your training or output in general, maybe you do need to take consideration that this is going to be another reburst of information, a reburst of motivation. So you want to be able to use this as best as possible, and probably going to need to take some little bit of time off before you go back in and give it your all.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think it's also, it's that aspect of just, you know, what happened for me as well. When I had the second lockdown, I also said to myself, I'm just going to take a deload. I think I took it last week. And I think it was just one that had a great run between the last lockdown and then this lockdown. And just a perfect time. I think, what was it? 4 weeks, 4 months, not 4 weeks, 4 months, I think it was. And I thought, you know what, I've had a really good run. Let me take a deload. And then obviously, you know, home training has been fine, but like, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm just like, damn, do I have to pick up these bands again? And I think everyone's in the same boat. And I'm not gonna like lie to people and tell you like home training is great and thumbs up and all that kind of stuff, because it's decent, but it's like it does the job. But after a while, it's just like it becomes quite monotonous. And the good news is now in 2021, the gyms will always stay open, regardless of there is obviously, unless there's a massive national lockdown again. But I think it's up to tier 3. They'll always keep open from what I know now. So salute to Nick Capo, another Scouser. You should invite for tea, Nathan.
Yeah, we'll go for a brew together.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had lockdown again. I escaped.
I don't know how you did it.
Another one, so I'll probably, because I'm coming back tomorrow, and probably have the weekend where I'll chill, and then
That's why the scammers got you. Do you know that? It's because you're training still.
motherfucker. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Yeah. No, so I think I need actually to take a little deload, because I've been actually maybe doing it a bit too much, because you get like super appreciative of what you have, because you know that it's not there for everyone, and I knew that I could have been me, so it kind of is like, oh, I'm training every day because it's like, oh, now that I can, I might as well just. So I'm probably like overdoing it a little bit, and I can feel it in my body. It needs it definitely needs a bit of a rest. But then also I do have my photo shoot in like 3 weeks, so I also have to keep that in mind, that I can't be a lazy bum, and yeah, training is good for you.
Just before Christmas, eh?
Yeah, 16th.
For
So
yeah, it'd be good to go into like just looking at dealers, because I think a lot of people are in that same boat. You've either gone into training and you've been like, well, fuck this, and I'll wait till after lockdowns to go back into it, or you're now in that position where you probably train more consistently than ever. You're more appreciative of it than ever. And you probably get to that point where you're like, whoa, I've really overdone this, or I really pushed it. So, you know, for me, my red line signals, or the way that I know that I need a deload, is like I said, like no enthusiasm to train in the mornings, or even wanting to like be in the gym, or when I'm in the gym or in that workout environment, should we say, is just no motivation, just can't even get into it. You know, my sleep starts to suck, my appetite starts to go down. So for me, they're my signals, and that's when I know that I need a deload. What about yours?
mine, go on, Emily, and then I'll go.
No, I think mine is definitely sleep. Like it's starting to be extremely poor. I think my appetite goes up, if I'm going to be honest. And yeah, just overall like lethargy. You know, you wake up in the morning, you feel super heavy. It's like your central nervous system, it really is, it just can't cope anymore. So you just almost feel like you wake up feeling sick, even though you're not really sick. So that's for me, but that's you left it a little bit too long. Like that's more like it's gone into the red, even in the yellow. It's like, okay. So I'm still figuring out my yellow light analogy for when I should be pushing my recovery a little bit more. But yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think it's dragging myself. Like if it's into the gym, or if it's for like right now, I think it was just after lockdown, it was just like straight away dragging myself into just training at home. And I was like, yeah, I can't do this at this moment. I was like, yeah, I just need to take a deload. So even for me, I've done it. I've never really looked at like my sleep and stuff, but I know my appetite usually just goes up. I guess because it's like whatever's happening to me in that moment. But for me, it's definitely just dragging myself into the gym and not really feeling like what I'm going to be doing today. I just go through the motions rather than actually being intent with my training. So like, when you just go in there, you're like, yeah, I'm just ticking the box of I've trained today, which I think a lot of people sometimes do that, not knowing that, oh yeah, you're kind of maybe redlining, or you're probably in the red, or you just need to take a break and come back the following week.
Yeah.
I've done that loads of times.
Yeah,
Also,
absolutely.
what I find is when you're actually in those training sessions that you will much easier self-talk yourself out of that extra 1 rep. So I kind of know that, okay, when I start to like cut myself some slack way too often, I know that I probably need to at least take a couple of days. Maybe sometimes you don't need to have a whole week. You can take like a couple of days where you just do active recovery or something like that. But yeah, the self-talk is a good cue as well.
Yeah, 100. I totally agree on that one. And there are some like figures that you can go off. I mean, if your resting heart rate goes up significantly, maybe like 5 to 6 beats or over, you're probably going to say that you're probably needing to have some rest, because that will be indicative of something like HRV or anything like that, of the blood pressure, all those type of ones. Then going up, potentially do need to have a look at how you're managing your recovery, for sure. I definitely get in that same boat as you, where I get that. I just can't I can't push that extra rep. I want to. I know where it is. I can put it in the locker, but actually, it's just not there for me at that moment in time. And then it just becomes more apparent over time as well. Especially, I had my surgery 9 weeks ago now. I was saying to Tom, my training partner, like ever since then, I just felt like I've not been able to push anything more. But I haven't had a week off since I literally got back into training 3 days after I had surgery. So that was probably unwise on my behalf, but at the same time as I wanted to train, and I was like, going through that point of where I was not being able to walk, so I needed to do something as opposed to nothing, and that probably drove my recovery or my fatigue a lot higher. So being able to get that back is going to be super key after this week off.
Yeah, you skipped the whole rehab process, yeah? Just got back into it. That was it.
No, well, actually, it's fair play. It's probably the first time I've actually done some rehab, and it's still going through now. I mean, I trained legs for the first time in a very long time last week, and I've been doing like loads of stuff. My quads are like finally coming back to working order, and walking has kind of had to be pushed along just because I've got a little Luna in my life now, which means that she needs walking. But originally the steps were going to be quite low, but I think I've had to jack that up because she's super active.
Question for you, by the way, was about training partners. You mentioned there with Tom, your training partner.
Yeah.
Let's say if he's super motivated that week and you kind of like on the red, do you feel like you still get a few more out of that session rather than, or do you still feel like, damn, I'm still dragging myself? Because I've put that with my, like, let's say I train my mate, and usually weekends. And even if I'm dragging myself, I find when I have that training partner and he's just super energetic and he's like, let's go. And I'm like, fucking hell, here we go. And then suddenly, like, I feel like I feel I'm okay. And whereas if I'm training by myself and I'm dragging myself, what Em mentioned was, you kind of are 2-3 reps shy of, what you normally would do. How do you feel with that situation?
That's such an interesting question, and I tell you my honest answer. Honest answer is that there's a point of where it goes well. Like I know when I'm in the zone, and it's effectively he puts up in weight. He's 10 kilos heavier than me, so like he's using heavier weights than I am, which means that I'm like, oh well, I can use that one too. Just being like balls like that. But at the same time, is that when that drive is like, actually, nah, he's going to bury me, so I'm just not going to do it. Then that's when I know that I've got to that point where I'm like, I need to kind of have a rest or back off a little bit. But I think that innate to push forwards on someone else, someone else's mark first, is probably an error on my behalf, because his numbers will be his numbers, and if he's 10 kilos heavier than me, whilst I can be insanely strong for my body weight, I'm never going to be his numbers. So him pushing me, or his numbers pushing me and motivating me forwards, is absolutely fantastic, but it will come to my detriment over the long term. And you always have to stay in your own lane when it comes to your own progress. And I love it. I love the fact that it pushed me. But when I'm redlining or when I'm doing that part, it's like no, fuck this shit. I ain't progressing. You know, I'm not getting any more. Go away. You know.
Yeah. So I guess you're probably more frustrated than anything else.
But I also,
Yeah, absolutely. Because he's still smashing it, and I'm like, well, I'm a retard because I can't do anymore.
but don't you think as well, like, because I have a training partner here in Sweden, and she's stronger than me in her upper body. She does calisthenics and stuff like that, and she's just a machine. But it's also the hanging out in the gym, right? That it brings energy. So sometimes it might not even be that you're just dragging. It can just be whatever. And then because you're having this gym environment where you're now actually hanging out, you're not just with yourself. It just becomes this very nice place to be in with your friend that loves doing the same thing. So you're vibing off each other that way.
Yeah, the vibes are super great. Like, it's like the culture of what you present, and like me and him, we go like, you know, every morning. We've got something called like Andy Whitby, and if you everyone listens to the worst house kind of bounce music ever, you should listen to Andy Whitby, and they play it in the gym every single time. And it's like really happy house that just is old school songs with a really massive bass on the back of it. Is that now we put that on when we're now doing our home training because it mimics the gym, and we're always laughing about it, and we're always like, we always have things to go from and to with it. But it is that environment that you create as well between the two of you. So like we know each other when we need to back off or push forwards, and I guess you're only as good as your training partner, so your training partner can push you on those days as well. I don't think it's essential, but I think that, you know, you do get extra from those sessions when that's right, when you do have that training partner.
Yeah, I 100% agree with this as well. It's always weird that even if you start a training program together, you never hit deload at the same time. I've never seen it, because I know with my training partner, like he may 2 weeks after me, he's like, oh, I need a deload now. I need to take like a couple of days off. And even though we've started at the same like baseline, obviously he's stronger, but then we kind of get to the same position. We're like 12 weeks in, we're still like, okay, I drag myself in, and then he's like 2 weeks later, he's dragging himself in. So it's always interesting kind of seeing that as well at the same time. But I think it's a good like subject that we can obviously like, you know, dive deep into in the future as well, about training partners and the benefits of them as well. So I wanted to dive deep into, obviously, like, I know this is like a shorter lockdown anyway, but we could probably do a whole 2020 effectively as well, off lockdown, and what were your reflections so far this year? Let's start with Em.
I mean, it's hard for me to reflect on lockdown because I've never sat in one. So I mean, I spent maybe those 2 first days in lockdown in the UK, but obviously 2 days doesn't make a lockdown. I think it just makes a whatever. So I think in terms of from working with people in lockdown though, I think reflections, it's been amazing to see people grow in terms of how they perceive training as well, and how they can accept a situation for what it is and actually make the best out of it, even though it's not ideal. Maybe that it's something that has to be forced initially, but it's been so nice from where I sit to observe people actually stepping into being their best version and doing the work anyway, and actually pushing themselves and actually reporting and staying focused on their goal regardless of what happens in the world and circumstances. Because that's something that I always talk about, is like, we don't decide what happens in the world, and the world can be a shitty place, but if we can keep focusing on it as being something positive where we have choices, because we can always choose our response to it, then in a way this lockdown has been a really good blessing in a way, because it's, you have to practice a lot of these virtues in a way, and you get to practice, you know, feeling grateful for the things that you have and feeling grateful for the things that you are capable of, whilst riding the wave and then helping others, like trying to help others and being more connected with people, but in a whole different way. So I mean, if I look just at the lockdown and that, and like this pandemic as a whole, it really has been like a life lesson for so many people. And this goes obviously way far beyond the gym, right? It goes so deep into life and core and values. And yeah, so in a way, I just think this pandemic, as horrible as it is, and it's still ongoing, it is still a gift in disguise, because we've been forced to look at things because it's been there. We've been forced to do it. So yeah, that's my perspective of it.
I agree with that as well. I think you said something there, which is basically being like, controlling what you can control. And I think I've seen that with a lot of people as well, where, we're seeing it from like a bird's eye view effectively, right? So we're looking at from the top and we're like, okay, who's gonna really respond, well to this? And who's gonna kind of respond in a way that it's gonna spiral out of control? And we've seen people, and one of my sayings as well, like every lockdown so far, like, we've had like two, but I've always mentioned this to people, which is control every element you can control. Like if you can't control it, like if Boris says we've got lockdown, there's nothing we can do about it apart from just, okay, adhere to that. And then hopefully we're back soon. And obviously now we're back in the gym, which is a huge win. But I think, yeah, I agree with that. Like I've seen it with a lot of people. And in fact, people then have got amazing results as a result of that.
Yeah.
Like I've seen people still do photo shoots, still get in amazing shape that they never got previously, and they still managed to get it done. And then ultimately, I've also seen people who've gone in another route, which is, it's just, man, this is now coming in my life, and I can't I can't control it. I can't do this. I can't go to the gym now. So they used, I don't like to call it excuses, but at the same time, you can't call them excuses, right? Because they're like, I can't do this, I can't do that. But then you see other people doing it. So it's from us as coaches, we're seeing it from a view of like, wow, okay, this person responds like this to it. This person responds like this to it. And it's also very, very fascinating as well. And I think I've also seen a lot more people who are a lot nicer now, especially like living in London. We're like, London is known for like, people quite snobby and so on. And, if you compare it to up north, Nathan will tell you straight away, like being Liverpool, everyone's a lot nicer, whereas London's people like a bit uptight and stuff. And I've just seen a lot more people just saying hello in the streets now, which is rare in London. Like obviously you'd never get that. People are just like, well, why are you looking at me kind of thing. But I've just seen a lot, like, I don't know, people are just more appreciative of just maybe human interaction potentially. And I think so. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe, there's a lockdown next year, people go back to baseline of being snobby again, but I don't know. So that's probably my kind of at least top two reflections on it, like people controlling what they can control, and then just people being nice. I don't know what it is, but I think appreciating human life and human connection.
Oh, yeah, 100% on both of those. I think for me, it really typified just the innate response that we have as humans, either to fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
And managing each one of those through your clients. Like it's not right or wrong to do either. Like at the end of the day, if you fight, you fight. If you flight, then you run away. Then you run away. That's absolutely fine. But it's dealing with those individuals and like breaking it down for those people that want to fight. You can map out and say, like control your controllables, and it'll work for those individuals. And you can test them to go, okay, well now let's see what you do. Let's make the most out of it. But for those people that flight are probably having high levels of overwhelm, and it's about that coach's experience. Or for me, it was about looking at those individuals and saying, okay, well what can I get you to do right now that's going to have a positive impact? It doesn't need to be 100% mentality. It just needs to be something over nothing. And that's going to have a long-standing effect, because if you go through this lockdown and you've just done your 10,000 steps every single day, you've done better than what you would have done, eating Fox's biscuits and sitting on your arse for 3 months and just moping around. And that's kind of the nooks and the crannies of things, because you want to be able to do something, and if it's not in your capabilities to do every single thing that you set out to do, that's absolutely fine. But now you have to manage your expectations, manage that fight and flight, and get on with the job in hand, and in whichever way that is for you at that moment in time. So for me, it was understanding the differences between the people on this earth, and that we're all different and we always have different responses. So that was definitely number one. And I think secondly for me is that I'm going to piggyback on that communication thing that Kanar said. I mean, for me, 2019 was a year of very much lockdown-esque, of traveling all of the time with the kind of communication. So I knew what was coming into this. It was going to be very, very difficult for people to kind of stay connected the way that they thought they were, because everyone thinks that Zoom is the same. Everyone thinks that WhatsApp call is the same. Everyone thinks that it is, but I can tell you now, and everyone will probably agree with me, is that it's not the same, and it's not the emotional connection that you get through a Zoom call. Like you just can't get it. There's a barrier to that. It's the non-verbal communication that really does spike your interest. It's how other animals actually communicate with each other. It's totally non-verbal. So you miss that completely from the Zoom. and you miss that from the WhatsApp, and you miss that from just the calls. So, you know, it's all about, you know, connecting back with people and just having a good interaction with your solid close friends. Like, you don't need 25 people to hear what you're saying. You just need one person, and you pick your close friends wisely, and let them be those people that you feel connected with. And I think that's what's allowed me to notice over that period of time as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally felt it. You know, you feel the disconnect. There was a period, and obviously I wasn't in lockdown, but it's still been like loads of restrictions, and I haven't really been seeing a lot of people. And the physical feeling of not being surrounded by people, like physical touch, it's something like, because obviously we release oxytocin when we have an
Oi,
yo.
oi.
We release oxytocin and endorphins and all of these things, like brain chemicals that makes us feel good because we are interacting with people. You don't really get that from looking at a screen, even though yes, it's there and it's a great substitute, but it doesn't just change the fact that you're not having human interaction and you're not able to get that. So yeah, I think I definitely felt it. There was a time when I was like, actually, I feel a bit depressed. I feel heavy. I feel sad, and I don't really know what it is. But for me, and I'm also a very kinesthetic person, so I thrive off like hugs and like actually just being with people. And so for me, I really felt it, and yeah, it was actually quite hard. And then like hugging someone became the most special thing, right? When you got to hug your best friend, it's like just hold on for extra while just to get
Like,
those endorphins. Yeah, like honestly. So yeah, man.
Who have you been getting oxytocin from? Do you need to get a test for that?
I think there is a test. Oh God. You know. So, but I have one friend. I got two friends here in Sweden. So yeah, that's it.
no, but I think
Nate, when we met, you know, we have
Oh,
to
yeah.
hug for a good 10 seconds. Otherwise, like it's like you feel like you get that recharge, and it's like, wow, we haven't met for a while, and let's just hug it all out. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
1 year.
the energy.
yeah, really,
Energy is interlocked. That's what they
yeah,
say.
or something.
But no, I agree with you, especially Nate, with your first point as well. Like we saw people going through like different struggles, and then managing what they can do. So everything that's basically, I think, with a lot of people, strip it back to even like beyond baseline, or just the baseline would be whatever it is, and then just okay, cool, manage what you can do, whether it's even one thing, and then just controlling that element. And once you've done that, I think it will allow you to kind of say, oh wow, I actually did it despite going through a lot of things right now. Like if you remember the first lockdown, it was kids at home as well, whereas this one, it was kids were still at school. So parents were in a weird situation where they had like Zoom meetings, their kid would pop in, it would be all over the place. I remember speaking to a lot of parents like, yeah, I just couldn't do anything today. I just had like 6 Zoom calls, and my kid was just there, and then I had to do a presentation, and I was like, wow, that's insane. Like that's also quite tough to do. So I've seen like people be resilient as well at the same time, despite what was going on in their lives. I think people were still really, really focused as well. But I think let's hope that 2021 there isn't any more lockdowns. And I think what we may see in 2021, and we probably have to do the podcast on this, is the rise of socials, and they're going to go like through the roof. And I think we'll obviously be discussing that, probably have a podcast on its own.
And we've got different diseases spreading, but that's
hopefully not. But let's dive deep into obviously the final topic for today is our training for the rest of this year and what we want to achieve in 2021.
You go first.
Yeah, go on, Kevin.
Yeah, so for me, I got like 2022 as like my date towards like a photo shoot. It's been kind of lingering probably for the last like 3-4 months. I'm like, you know what, really enjoying training right now. I want to go for like one last push in 2021. So maybe toward the summer, look towards pushing it in terms of body weight, and then gradually, stripping it back. And then probably around Jan or mid-Feb, I want to start my prep for summer of 2022. Training right now is going really well. Obviously, takeaway lockdown, but it was before that. It was amazing. I was loving it. I had a couple of training partners, which was great. And I think, we mentioned obviously training partners with this podcast, but it makes a huge difference at times. Just as soon as you get in there, it's like the energy, you feel it and you're like, wow, okay, cool. And even in the gyms, to be fair, like I think that's one thing that people miss is the camaraderie and the culture. It's just being there and people like, Nate, I know you go to like a gym where people know each other and everyone just gives a nod. It's the same thing with my gym. It's everyone gives like a nod to each other. Everyone, it's just that connection you get suddenly from it. So I loved it. I'm going to be changing a bit of my split, going to more of a chest specialization for 2021, or starting from now and heading into 2021, and then I'll judge it from there as well if I need to make a change. But yeah, 2022 is my like date. I've obviously put it into the podcast now, so there's no going back into that. But to be fair, I love like dieting. I know Nathan knows this as well. Like I've loved dieting. I've no issues with that. For me to get shredded is fine. It's just for me staying in a muscle building period is probably the hardest. And I think I've actually spent a long time on it now, which I've quite enjoyed. So it's about making the most of it now over the next year or so. And then 2022 is going to be the year.
Yeah, I mean, for me, we have a date of doing a photo shoot in July, me and Pri. That'll be about 18 months of muscle building or just building in general, which will be good to see. But ultimately for me, it's not really about the visuals. It's more of a case of I've pushed body weight up now, and I'm very, very comfortable from a perspective of where I'm at right now. I could stay here for the rest of my life, really. But it's actually about if I want to try and find a new baseline low. Where I am right now, like I said, I could happily be here, but I like the idea of having be a little bit more leaner year round, and still have that strength coming up as well. So I think you can push body weight up as much as you want, and strength will come up as well, because it's relative strength to how much mass you have. But I really want to be strong, really, really strong in that 62 to 65 kilo category, which will help as well. So apart from that, it's just a case of I love what I'm doing anyway, so it's not going to change. All that's going to change is I'm going to actually get an appetite back, and I'm going to then diet and be hungry and then wish I didn't have an appetite back. So that's all that's going to happen over the next 9 months, and hopefully along the way there'll be a shoot in July, and then just a period of July to the end of the year, just basically practicing to stay in that low end position for a very long period of time.
Yeah, and for me, obviously I have my photo shoot now in 3 weeks, and then thing is that I'm in a place where I stay fairly lean all year round. I just want to keep pushing my strength a little bit, and actually be consistently working towards some numbers. I would love to be able to squat 100 again, probably at a bit lighter weight, and deadlift. Like I just want to push up some numbers really from a PB's perspective, and keep working on some imbalances I would say that I have happening around my foot and hip, and just making sure that I actually stay injury free and actually feel good in my body all the time. And then yeah, I mean, I'm going to a festival next summer where I'm definitely gonna go like naked with body paint. So I'm gonna definitely be like pushing for some, yeah. So I'm gonna be pushing for some a great physique at that point. So yeah. Just,
what festival is this?
Boom Festival in Portugal.
Boom Festival.
Yeah.
Boom Festival.
Boom. So see you there, boys.
Yeah. There isn't enough paint to cover me.
No.
Oi, oi.
It depends what's happening with lockdown as well, right?
But I think for me now, I'm just in a place where I just enjoy training for what it is. I don't have specific goals. I don't have ego-driven goals anymore. Of course, I still want to like have hypertrophy and certain, like I want that, but I do everything a little bit more sensible right now. And yeah. So.
No, I get that as well, but we'll keep you guys updated obviously on our training goals throughout obviously 2021 when we're doing these podcasts as well. But it's been a pleasure, everyone. We'll be back next week as well with another topic. If you guys got any questions as well, feel free to just either DM us with questions that you want us to kind of go diving deep into. Apart from that, thank you everyone. Good night and much love.
Ciao.
Peace. Bye.